I lived the balance that I saw on LinkedIn. I've lived that. And I think that's a mistake. And so, with a near tear in my eye, I'm trying to share with you that I think if you're living that, you might want to reconsider your balance, your life balance, and you may want to reconsider how you're prioritizing and where you're spending your time.
That capability to leave and have things run well is a true measure of how good a leader you are. Otherwise, you're just a manager. And without that manager there managing, then everything will fall apart. Then you're not a leader.
We talk about company resilience. I'm going to talk about legacy resilience. The things that matter are your relationships and your family, your company relationships, the people you've mentored, the people you've touched matter.
Entry music. Da, 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 da. It's the Bob and Josh Show.
It is summertime, which means vacation time, which means time with the family. But some leaders aren't great at that. Some are. And today we're going to talk about the importance of doing that well and the message it sends to you and your teams and your family, everything across the board. So, Robert, where
Yes,
do
sir.
you stand on this? How do you feel about vacations? Should you take your laptop with you, have your phone on, double extra loud ringer so that way you hear every call? Where do you stand?
I want to talk about the inspiration for this episode in a light way. I read a couple of posts on LinkedIn from a leader, and one was around a holiday and one was around a vacation. And they were talking about family versus business, right? So this was a CEO, so a leader, an extreme leader of a successful company, and just sharing proudly the work-life balance that they had in these what I would consider family-oriented events, right? I go on vacation with my family. And the discussion was, the other thing is I think they were doing it to set an example, to say this is what leaders do. Not in a strong, heavy-handed way, but why would you?
Well,
You
I mean,
just,
you don't put it on LinkedIn just to put it on LinkedIn. Like there's an
yeah,
intent there.
there's
Yeah.
intent behind it, right? And I get that. And I was looking at it and I was like, God, it was very skewed towards the business Metacasters. It was very skewed towards the company. Their messaging was, I'm on vacation or I'm spending time with my family on a holiday. And it was very skewed towards the business. They made a list of things that they're doing. And the family was like low on the list. I have my laptop. I'm going to check in with meetings. I'm going to talk to a couple clients every day. I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to be doing this. And oh, by the way, God, it's my family vacation, so I'll throw the kids a bone. I'm being snarky. But my reaction back to Josh's point, this episode is about, to me, work-life balance, leadership work-life balance. And what does good look like? And I'd like to reframe it to be life balance, right? And take out work, take out profession, take out personal, take out family. Just talk about life. We are living our lives, right? All of us are human beings on the planet Earth, and we're living our lives. And what does life balance look like? And my point for leaders is I think you have to put family first. I think you have to put your friends and family, your relationships first. That's your foundation. Companies, and Josh he will disagree with me, but I think your foundation is your family and your close. I'm talking about those close friends, your inner circle, those people that think highly of you, they love you, they support you, they give you positivity, etc. To me, that's first. And then company, I care. I'm a workaholic. I love companies. And I wasn't like this when I was younger. When I was younger, it was the flip. I put companies first. And my first divorce, it's not just the company, it's my fault. But I am once divorced, and that divorce was related to my lack of balance. One of the main factors was my lack of balance in managing my professional life. And I lost connection to family. My kids are grown and I have pretty good relationships, but I could have had better relationships. They needed their dad. And back then I had visiting rights and I didn't see them. And there were times where I could have helped and been there. So I think I'm going to be 70. And what I'm sharing is my wisdom with you Metacasters for what it's worth and my life learning. And it's got bias, I guess, in it. But I think I lived the balance that I saw on LinkedIn. I've lived that. And I think that's a mistake. And so with a near tear in my eye, I'm trying to share with you that I think if you're living that, you might want to reconsider your balance, your life balance. And you may want to reconsider how you're prioritizing and where you're spending your time. And now I'll shut up and I'll let my much wiser colleague talk about it.
I would say I've been on a similar journey to Bob. Early in my career, I was learning. I think that's part of this journey and part of what Bob and I are trying to do is share the learnings and experience that we have in hopes that your journey is a little bit less bumpy than the one Bob and I have had. There was a moment after we moved here from North Carolina and I was working my tail off because I was the new guy in town and I was working trying to establish myself as a technology leader, create a little bit of a brand so people knew who I was and that I existed. And I came home from work one day and my wife stopped me as I was, walking in the house and she said, "Hey, we've got a problem." And I'm like, okay, like I'm ready. Like, all right, well, what's going on? And the problem was one of the kids said, "Why is daddy not as good a dad as he used to be?"
Yeah.
Yeah. And that literally floored me. I had zero desire to be that person, but I can tell you that I changed instantly. I didn't have awareness until that moment that I was not being the type of father and husband that I wanted to be. And that wake-up call was a huge wake-up call for me and fundamentally changed how I operated. And from then on, I've been working to make sure that that is never questioned. But there certainly, obviously, was a point where my kids noticed and they were like scratching their head and say, "Hey, Mom, what the heck's going on with Dad?" First and foremost, nothing makes me happier than the fact that it was vocalized and I ended up hearing it. Like, it would have been horrible to find that out later. Now, the question in my mind is how long did they think that before they brought it up? So, but I mean, kids are kids, so I'm assuming it wasn't very long. But that was an instantaneous, you got to get your shit together and you got to do it now. And I did. And so the goal that Bob and I have is that you don't need the wake up calls that Bob and I had along our journey to get us to this point where we're figuring this out and that it's not too late. And it's not for Bob and I, but we found our way and we changed the approaches. So that's my story. I've got some thoughts on how to balance that I want to get in a little bit later, just about how I try and lead as a father and create work ethic without making it be all the things. So there's some things that I'm intentional about with my kids about when I am working or when I'm really putting the hammer down. And I try and talk to them about, hey, this is what's going on. This is why I'm doing it. This is the message I'm trying to send. I want you to understand, but then also being really intentional about putting that to the side. So we can get into that a little bit later, but that's my journey to here. And again, the goal, as Bob and I always have with all of our, 500 episodes or whatever it is about trying to help the current and future leaders stub their toe a couple times less than Bob and I have.
There's a couple points I think I want to make. One is, Metacasters, it's not just about fatherhood and family. It's also about the friends that you surround yourself with, your supportive circle, and building that. And not just having it be company based. Oh, I have the entire C team as my friends, right? And we're all working like maniacs and we never take a vacation. Well, okay. But outside of that, who do you play golf with? Who's your trusted, someone you trust that you can just be yourself with? A friend you can go fishing with or whatever, or just have Zoom calls with. Josh and I are friends. I consider him part of my inner circle, right? And part of this Metacast is not grooming that, but taking the time to establish that. Josh has been there for me and through good times and tough times. I think I've been there for Josh through good times and tough times. That's part of that. So developing that, nurturing that, investing time in that, just like you would in your family. That's what I'm talking about. So it's both of those things. And I think that makes you stronger. The other point I want to make is I think some people may look at this as, oh, you're weak, or you're light, you're not investing in your company. I actually think it makes you a better leader. When I was reading this post, this person was talking about how much the specific work activities they were going to do on vacation. I was thinking to yourself, that's not necessary. Why don't you trust your leadership team? I need to be there if there's an emergency. And my leadership has said, no, you don't. Or another question I had is, you haven't built a freaking leadership team that can handle an emergency? What the hell is wrong with you?
Right.
You haven't built a leadership team that's resilient. You haven't built a leadership team. This is the CEO of the Metacasters, right? You don't have a product person that can talk to customers. They do, but have you subverted them in some way? And I think the answer is yeah.
Yeah.
And I need to be in the meetings. I need to be doing this and I need to be doing that. And I was thinking to myself, forget the relationship stuff, family versus business. I was thinking to myself, you've been a pretty bad, independent of the success of the company. You have not built a resilient leadership team and you're putting yourself in the middle of this stuff. And then it creates a situation where you can't go on vacation. I can't tell you how many one-on-one conversations I've had with folks over the years to not do that.
Right.
Managers, I'm like, oh, I don't know if I leave. I'm like, get your butt out of here. Go enjoy I don't know if I can go to my daughter's wedding or my son's graduation. Well, we have a release coming up on Monday. Oh, shit. If you can't take a break, what if you get sick, right? If we lack so much resilience that we are so dependent on you, then I've done a bad job as the leader here, right? And we need to change that. So there's that part. To me, it's not a sign of strength or sign of commitment. It's actually the reverse of that. I think good leadership, right? In all seriousness, what if he gets hurt, right? What will happen to that company? Now again, as leaders, very often they're short-sighted and they're not seeing this. That's why we're talking about it. Josh, any reactions?
Yeah. That capability to leave and have things run well is a true measure of how good a leader you are. Otherwise, you're just a manager. And without that manager there managing, then everything will fall apart. Then you're not a leader. And that's a telltale sign. And Bob and I have talked about that a bunch of times, without a doubt. One of the common themes in that is that it's a me first thing, right?
Yeah.
So it's not a leader. It's like, hey, this is about me. Like, hey, look at me. I'm on vacation, but I'm still working. This is what I expect from you. Or, hey, you guys can't be the same without me.
Yeah.
And making sure that that's always visible. And that's not a healthy leadership approach. In fact, it's not a leadership approach. It's a management approach that has a ceiling, and that will become an issue at some point. The company's successful. Again, we're not going to name this person, and they're doing fine, but they could be doing better. And
that's the point.
Yeah.
They could be if I was on the board, I would be getting them a coach.
Yeah.
I would be helping them to help themselves to be better, which is going to equate to better execution and better performance in your job. That's what I'm alluding to. Sorry, Josh.
And trying to think of a different word than resilience, since we've used that a couple times, but I can't. A more resilient organization that is not dependent, that is not bottlenecked, where my assumption is there's a fair amount of turnover there. If the leading executive is setting that tone, then that's going to be a challenging place for some folks to work. Now, there'll be some folks that eat it up, right? And that's
Yep.
exactly how they want to roll. Young Josh, young Bob would have been on
Exactly.
board with that, right?
Exactly.
Without a doubt. They'd be like, yes, that's how I roll. That's who I want to be as a leader. But that also has a shelf life where that's going to run out. And so then it becomes a bit of a revolving door where folks come in and they have a belief of what the company is, and they get inside and see what it really is, and then they're out. So that's what that would lead to.
I want to say something. I want to see how Josh reacts to it as well. I think we talk in the Metacast a lot about leadership and leading and in company organizational contexts. I think there's also leader as you. So I want to paint the picture, and this is where I'm at. So this is something that I'm starting to think about. But picture yourself, you're retired. You're 85 years old. You're sitting in a rocking chair by a lake outside a cabin, and you're considering your life. You're considering your impact. And what I'm going to say might piss some people off or just get you aggravated, but things like the company you built, the products you built, aren't going to matter, right? There are products I built, they don't exist anymore. No one gives a rat's ass about them. They made money, no one cares. I did them, or teams that with my name on them did them. My name is, no one's remembering me in the company. What I'm talking about is the things, we talk about company resilience. I'm going to talk about legacy resilience. The things that matter are your relationships and your family, your company relationships, the people you've mentored, the people you've touched matter. You'll think about those. Those will be the things that matter in your legacy. The relationships you've built, the family that you've grown and nurtured, the friends that still are there with you. They'll come and go. But that's the things that will matter. But it takes, what I'm trying to do is bring that picture to now. Does it really, as part of your life balance, have this metaphor of, I really care, am I making the right priority calls so that I'll be satisfied in my rocking chair? Maybe that's the way to say it. Early on in my career, the rocking chair was like, no one, it didn't matter. I was building, trading systems that handled billions of dollars. And they really were these I was like cocky, right? With huge banks. Does it matter now? And in 20 more years, it will matter even less. It'll matter negative, etc. So maybe use that metaphor in your mattering. I know we have to make money. I know we want to be successful. I know we want to drive. I know we want to lead. But it's perspective, right? I'm trying to share with you a broader perspective. Josh?
Yeah, there are decisions that I've made in the past, we'll say 5 or 6 years, that are business decisions, where I work, what I do, where I focus my time and energy, that are directly driven by a legacy, and that legacy being trying to create a shining example for those that I care about the most, being my kids, and things that I've talked to them about of like, hey, this is how I think you win in life. And so there have been decisions where I've had choices, and there was easy path and hard path. And easy path was easy, but also I knew in that moment that my kids would look at me and say like, this dumbass, like he's saying we should do this, but then he never does it.
Right.
So those are choices and decisions that I've made that admittedly are a little bit more challenging to execute, but I felt obligated to make happen because of that.
I almost felt like music was coming up there, Josh, or some.
There's some
It's the
lawnmowers
mowers.
coming up.
It's the mowers.
Which is why I ended my diatribe a little bit sooner.
The mowers. I felt like it was an orchestra building to a crescendo or something.
Yeah, there's an orchestra out there. Yeah.
Yeah. So why did you bring up the point that you made earlier? You wanted to add some nuance.
Yeah. And so part of that choice has been I'm on a 5-year sprint to stand up a company, get it built, and have an exit. And I've been really intentional with my kids, like, hey, I'm gonna work my ass off for this next period. But also, here's what I will do is I will slam on the brakes anytime anything with you happens. So no matter what happens, here's an example. My office is at the front of the house. So here's the front of the house. The front door is right there. Whenever that front door opens and one of them goes in or out, whatever I do, I stop. I go out that door and we chat for a bit. Or if they ever come down and they walk right in, everything stops.
Yep.
And they get entire focus. And then we went on vacation and I took my laptop, which I maybe shouldn't have, but I didn't do anything with it. And it's something that my kids and I talk about, right? And my kids and I talk about like, hey, dad has a problem where dad works a lot, and I'm not saying that's what you should do, but that's where I'm at. I'm trying to figure this out. So I talk about that with them to make sure that they understand and so that they can find that balance. Because I don't want them to end up exactly like me. There's parts of this journey that I think are good. There's parts of this journey that aren't. So I just try and be open and honest with them about what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, what my intentions are. And like I've talked, like, hey, I've got a thing I'm trying to do. And actually a discussion I had with my youngest was, he was like, hey, Dad, how's it going? What's happening? Like, man, you're digging in a lot. Like, yeah, well, here's the thing. If you want to do something exceptional, you have to be the exception. And being the exception doesn't look like what you see everywhere else, so it requires this. But then we talk about the balance and everything that goes along with it. So that's that balancing act that I'm trying to strike as a good father, but as a good leader of 3 humans that I'm trying to set up to win in life. And that's another discussion that we've had is winning for each of them looks different.
Yeah.
And winning for one of them could be, hey, I want to live in a cabin in the woods and, not have to go into an office ever. Cool. That's not like, there are people, well, that's like not a monetary win. That's a life win. Okay, cool. But that's still not easy, right? You still got to figure out how to make that work,
exactly.
So you have to win at life somehow to make that a thing. And I'm not saying you have to win with money, but making that happen is going to be hard. And so we'll have to figure out how to get you there. But those are the things that I'm trying to balance as I'm in this like final sprint of my career to check off some boxes that are out there for a couple of reasons. 1, personally, 2, as a leader, and 3, on the monetary side to secure futures and things like that.
So Metacasters, I feel like we're wrapping. I want you to, so a couple things, a tactical thing, a suggestion. When you go on vacation, right? Cut off, as a leader, cut off everything. And focus on whatever, the vacation, focus on who you're with, focus on the environment, and focusing on recharging your batteries, period. Just a suggestion. Take books along, read them, increase yourself, and actually create time to do that. Don't do any work.
But not like business books.
Yeah, not like business books. If you're like me, dragon, fantasy books. Go ride a dragon for a week. Second thing, I want to emphasize life balance. I'm not judging you, but I want you to come back and take that perspective. And take the perspective so you're balancing things. Short-term, mid-term, long-term, legacy term. and you're looking today and saying, am I creating the right balance? Am I growing the organization, my team, whatever, so that I'm achieving the right balance? Or am I too skewed one way or the other? I will tell you that most leaders I meet are too skewed. And it has an age component to it. It has an experience component to it as well. But most folks are too focused on professional and too focused on the organization. And then they wake up after 30 years and it's like, holy crap, life passed me by. And if that's your decision, then do it intentionally and do it every day. You're aware of that. I am making those trade-offs, but take that step back and look at it that way. Third thing is we are not picking on the unnamed organization person. This is a personal decision that each of us make. We have free will, right? We were given free will by the universe, and that we act on our free will every day. So I'm trying to use that example in this cast, but at the same time, I respect it, right? Each one of us, we're going to live our lives the way we see it. And that's why I like that metaphor of you're in the rocking chair at 85 or 90, or if it's just your head, right? You're on an AI body, you're on a robotic body, it's just whatever it is, you're sitting there and looking back. And what are you going to be proud of?
Yeah,
right?
and
what's going to matter? Go ahead, Josh.
My mental check that I do, I've talked about this a couple times, but it certainly fits with what you're saying, is that any decision I make in what I'm going to do, what I'm going to focus on, I always bounce it off of two people, the 80-year-old version of Josh and the 8-year-old version of Josh. And I want both of them to be like, yeah, that's awesome. We should do that. And hey, I'm proud of that, or I'm excited about that. And yeah, let's do that. Yeah. So those are the two people that I have conversations with to say, like, is this the right path for me to go down? And that helps me in these moments.
So with that, food for thought, life balance. From beautiful downtown Cary, North Carolina.
And beautiful downtown Fuquay Arena, North Carolina.
I'm Bob, Mr. Balance Galen.
And I'm Josh, sort of balanced Anderson.
Shake
and bake.
Take care, y'all.